Hey everybody, I'm Bede, aka The Terrible Australian, a super podcast, and welcome to the 15th edition of the Godzilla Diaries. For this one, I will be talking about Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, uh, giant monsters all out attack, and Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Let's get right into it, into Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, giant monsters all out attack. Man, that is such a long and tedious title, just like the movie. Now, if you remember in the last video, I sort of mentioned that the Millennium period so far for me of this franchise has been pretty rough. I hated Godzilla 2000, thought it was awful, and Godzilla versus Megaguirus, while an improvement, was still pretty mediocre and forgettable. And I've heard from a lot of people that this entry, Giant Monsters All Out Attack, which I'll call for the time being, is definitely one of the highlights, and for a lot of people, one of the best of the series. So I was looking forward to this one. Unfortunately, this one was a massive disappointment. I'm sorry, this movie was a mess. It was pretty bad, and for a lot of reasons. I thought it was too long, just like the last two films. This one was just way too long. It was poorly paced. It was dull. The characters weren't interesting. The story is bizarre, and there's just odd things in this film that are just but don't make any sense and are stupid. And it just felt really uninspired. Like the movie, tries to sort of uh, cover a lot of things. One, it sort of wants to sort of go into sort of like politics, philosophical discussions, mysticism, legends, folklore, and stuff like that. But it just doesn't. It just poorly does it, and it doesn't help that the plot is pretty bizarre because like one of the plot's sort of about how like it's set 50 years after the events of the original Godzilla film, and this one, just like the first two, basically is the third reboot in a row. It's completely standalone and has nothing to do with the two previous films. And there's an aspect of the video I found bizarre, is that one of the reasons why Godzilla is backed is because he's possessed by the spirits of Japanese soldiers who died in World War II, and of course, like an admiral by the name of Tachibana attends to sort of whose parents were killed by Godzilla when he was young, and so he decides to destroy him once and for all. And his daughter in the film is a reporter for sort of a very cheap sort of supernatural TV show, and so she gets wind of all this, and then she goes on sort of her own sort of journey and discovers that there are she discovers that the only way to defeat Godzilla is to find the three sacred beasts that will the guardians who will who will protect the Earth from Godzilla. And those monsters, of course, are Mothra, of course, King Ghidorah, which is a surprise, and also Baragon, and this is his first appearance in a Godzilla film. And but I hear he's a hugely popular kaiju character. One of the things I did like about the film, and I thought this was interesting, is that this is the first time King Ghidorah, who's always been played as a villain throughout this entire franchise, this is the very first time he's actually played as a good guy in this series, which I thought was pretty interesting, and not utilized a lot, unfortunately, but interesting. Well, that's one of the things I did like about the movie, and I thought the actors who played the roles of Admiral Tachibana and his daughter Yuri, they were solid. Everyone else, not so, and it was just, yeah, it just wasn't really good. And one thing I will give the credit the movie for is that I did like the fact that they actually changed the design of Godzilla from the look that he's had in the previous two films, because I wasn't a fan of the look in the previous two Millennium films. So they're going back to a more traditional approach for this one, but At the end, the design is still a bit odd, but mostly with the head, because in it he's just got white eyes. There's no, it just looked weird, like and his head was just weird. But that's just me. Some of the monster battles are okay, but uninspired, and of course, like the previous two films, the film does resort to CGI for some of these battles, particularly with Mothra and King Ghidorah. I'm probably like I hear different variations of that name, Ghidorah or Ghidorah. I'll go with Ghidorah for the time being, so forgive me. Ghidorah, sorry, Ghidorah. Okay, Ghidorah. My bad. So yeah, I just didn't really like this entry at all. I think it's definitely one of my least ones, and I was just very impatient by it. It was poorly made, and just wasn't fun at all. And when you have three monsters going up against Godzilla, um, it should be fun, but this film wasn't. It was just a total bore fest from beginning to end. Like there are interesting ideas in it, but it just doesn't do much with them at all. And also, there's a twist where you have sort of this old man character who appears a few times in the film, who in a way works for the Guardian monsters. You find out at the very end that he's a ghost. He died 50 years ago, which is a stupid twist. So yeah, this movie was frustrating. I didn't like it at all. Yeah, so if I had to give this one, I'd probably give a rating of 1.5. I really did not like it at all. So yeah, so that's Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, giant monsters all out attack. Now on to the next film, which of course is Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. I must admit, I didn't know what to expect from this one, because since I've been badly burned by the three previous Millennium films, I expected this one to be maybe either mediocre or crappy. But so I sat down and watched it, and I just got to say it right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, all things that are holy. This movie freaking rocks. I absolutely loved this film, and I just had a complete utter blast from beginning to end. This is everything that I love in a Godzilla film. It makes up for the three previous crappy ones in a lot of ways, and it's just like it's not the most original film, and it is cliched. But the thing is, the film embraces though the sort of the cliches of this story, and just does them so well. Like it just does them in a way where you're not bothered by them at all, and it just has fun with them. And this film actually reminds me. Well, the plot for this one is basically this one again, like all the other Millennium films. This one is a standalone. It has nothing to do with three previous films in the Millennium period at all. And it's all about the Godzilla 50 years after his first attack returns. But this is actually not the original Godzilla, because the original Godzilla was killed in 54. This is a second one that has come to attack Japan, is wreaking havoc. And so the government decides, with the help of a scientist who sort of specialize with a group of scientists, one of which specializes in sort of combining DNA with robotics, to go find the original Godzilla's bones, and use them to create a robot to fight this new Godzilla. And of course, the robot in question, of course, is Mechagodzilla. So, and also they get a young pilot by the name of Akane Yashiro, who's played by Yumiko Shiku, and she does a wonderful job. I thought she gave a really good performance, and she has a really interesting character to play with in this film. And her character has a really interesting and tragic backstory. In the beginning of the film, she's a soldier whose team, due to a mistake on her part, are killed by Godzilla during a mission, and she's sort of during the film. She's sort of haunted by that, and she doesn't want to be a soldier anymore. And then she sort of gets coaxed into joining the Mechagodzilla program and to pilot this robot. And Now, if the plot kind of sounds vaguely familiar, it does sound a lot like Pacific Rim, and I wouldn't be surprised if this film was an influence on Pacific Rim, because they kind of do have similar plots. Well, I do like Pacific Rim. It is a fun film, but it is an incredibly flawed film, and that was mainly due sort of the sort of character development, the story development, and whatnot. And the characters just weren't that strong at all in this film. To me, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, the reason I like this film, why I think this is a better film than Pacific Rim, believe it or not, is that it actually has a pretty solid story, and the character work is actually solid. Like because the character of Yoshiro, she has a great arc. We sort of get compelled by her character from beginning to end, and we sort of taken on her character's journey, her emotional journey, and sort of her not trying to get over the guilt of what happened to her fellow soldiers, to finally sort of taking embracing life again, and finding a reason to live. Yukimo Shaku, she does a wonderful job with the character, strong performance, but everybody in the film is really good. There's a lot of good acting in this film, and yeah, there is a sort of a character in the film, I can't remember his name, who's sort of like that stock character who has issues with our main character, but the main reason is that this character's brother was a fellow soldier of Yoshiro, and he was the one who got killed in the mission with her, and so, but he goes through a bit of a sort of an arc as well, where he hates Yoshiro, but eventually grows mutual respect for each other, and it's done pretty well. Like, the character work is done better here than it was in Pacific Rim, and I just, like I said, I just think what Pacific Rim didn't quite get right, this film gets it right and does it better. So and it's just awesome. The battle sequences with Godzilla and Mechagodzilla are just awesome, and incredibly well done. And there's an interesting element about the film, which I kind of wish the film went into more, is that for some bizarre reason, at a certain moment in the film, after when Godzilla roars at Mechagodzilla, somehow, I guess the soul of the original Godzilla comes to life inside Mechagodzilla and actually takes over the robot and actually attacks the soldiers, which I think is bizarre, and it's an interesting idea. I don't know if it makes any sense whatsoever, and I'm probably got it all wrong. So if anyone out there who has seen this film could probably make it a bit more clear to me, but that's what I gathered from this film. It's not explored, the film brings it up, but then it's kind of discarded for the rest of the film, which I kind of would like to see it explored more, but whatever you do. But overall, this film is awesome. It's a satisfying, fun, giant robot versus giant monster movie. It's just good. It's really, really good, and it's definitely, actually, it's great. It's awesome, and it's definitely one of my favorites of the entire franchise for sure. So if I had to give Godzilla against Mechagodzilla a rating, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. That's Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Awesome stuff. Yep, that's the end of the 15th edition of the Godzilla Diaries. Keep a lookout very soon for the 16th edition, in which I will be talking about Godzilla Tokyo SOS and Godzilla Final Wars. So keep a lookout for that one, and I'll see you guys later. See you, everyone.